Continuous improvement. That's the key to success. I guess whether you're continuing your education or trying to perfect your putting game, humans have an embedded need to continuously improve. We've talked about several times in this podcast about innovation and its place here within our organization. And recently our senior leaders have done a thing, an innovative thing in a way. They've sat down and written out a plan, a strategic plan to be exact. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this 54th episode of the MAINEiac Radio Show. I'm Master Sergeant Andy Sinclair, and with me is the 101st Air Refueling Wing Vice Wing Commander, Colonel Ian Gillis, and he's eager to share this new strategic plan with all of us. What can you tell us, sir?
Colonel Netto, Colonel Decker, and Colonel Stroop embarked on a little bit of research. So they reached out to senior leaders all the way down to chiefs and superintendents in the squadrons to try and figure out what our strategic priorities should be and where we should be taking the Maine Air Guard in the next 10 years. And the culmination of that work is our strategic priorities and operational goals. So we kind of break that down into two separate things. The strategic priorities are those long-term things that we think we need to move towards in a strategic way. And then, of course, the operational goals are the things that we want to focus on in the next year that build upon to get us to those strategic goals. So that's the document that we're literally was just signed last week by Colonel Barassa, and we're trying to get it out to the masses in the wing so that everybody can get behind it.
So it's literally hot off the press.
It is, yeah, right off the press.
Well, that's kind of cool too. I guess I didn't realize that this was something that it would be kind of shared from you guys down to us, down to like my level, right? So it's kind of nice to be in the know and know where you guys have what you guys have in mind for us as the MAINEiac family, as an organization moving forward. So,
yeah, definitely. So if you think about it, as an organization, as 1,100 members strong, if we're all moving towards the same direction, that's a lot of inertia. That's a lot of power. So that's why we want to get this strategic plan out to everybody so they understand the challenges that are ahead of us, the things that we need to do to achieve those objectives in the end. And we get all 1,100 of us row in the same direction. That's a fast-moving boat, and that's what it's all about, is to make sure that we, all the way down to the lowest level airmen, understand what we're about and where we're going. So,
and I think too, again, speaking from my perspective, I think that knowing I guess I don't know how to say this without sounding it's about me, so I guess I'd only be insulting myself. So like knowing my place, knowing what cog I have in the wheel that turns this whole organization is going to help me better understand what you guys are expecting from me, and then therefore there is no weak link. And
exactly. That's our goal, and that's really why we're embarking. I call it a PR campaign. Mm-hmm. We want to get that message out all the way down to lowest level airmen so that they understand what they can do to help us make the Maine Air Guard viable for the future. So what's the first step in doing that?
From
the PR campaign, Colonel Barassa signed the document last week, so that's going to be out and available to people come next drill. We've kind of modified our mission statement. It used to talk about a lot of things. We tried to boil it down into something pretty simple. I'll give it to you right now. The mission of the 101st: deploy and employ air refueling, airlift, expeditionary aerospace, and combat forces around the world while supporting national security, homeland defense, and state of Maine objectives at home.
It's a lot shorter than what it used to be.
Yeah, a lot shorter, but it encompasses everything that we do, right? MAINEiacs are world-renowned anywhere we deploy for what we do and what we bring to the fight. And then here at home station, we play a vital role too, and that's what we were trying to encompass there. The vision statement really hasn't changed much. It's that world-class organization inspiring all to achieve their fullest potential while building on the MAINEiac tradition of excellence, teamwork, and commitment to the mission. So a little tweak there, but not much. And that's really what we're looking to get after in our strategic priorities, and then what we're looking to accomplish next year.
All I hear, side note, all I hear when you say the vision statement, we did a video a few years back with Chief Moore, and he was like that spearhead in this video, and that was the kind of opening the video is the vision statement. So all I hear is him in this like really cheesy reverb effect I put on him, where it's like an echoey thing in the background. It's super, super cheesy, but yeah, that's all I hear now. But so as far as the mission statement goes, we did put that. It's on our website now, and it's also on our Facebook page. So that's completely updated. If the listeners want to go on and read that, or attach it to their email. Anything like that. So that's cool. And so what goes in, so when you guys revamped that mission statement, sir, was that something that, was a collective effort? Yeah.
So group commanders and our chiefs got together, looked at the mission and vision statement, tried to, it had gotten very complex. And what we wanted to do was boil it down so that everyone in the organization could read it, understand it, and get behind it. So that, that's again what we're trying to do there.
And probably people outside our organization, so like possible recruits can read it and say, okay, this is what they do.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yep.
What else is kind of involved in this new strategic plan?
So I'll read down through maybe our strategic priorities here. So again, when we talk strategic priorities, we're looking at that. How do we get the organization to something new 10 years down the road? So it's not something that's going to happen overnight kind of thing. But first and foremost, explore new missions. And when I say that, looking at opportunities for the next tanker, what that airframe will be, what that mission will entail. We don't necessarily want to limit ourselves to that. We're also looking at airlift, cyber, and that kind of stuff. So although we think air refueling is kind of our niche mission here, so we are seriously looking at KC-46 and the bridge tanker, but we're not focusing solely on that. We're looking for what other opportunities there might be in the enterprise. Strategic priority number 2 for us is improve recruiting and retention. This one's a tough one because I look at that as a tactical level thing that maybe is not a 10-year goal, but where we are today as a force, we're only at about 93% fill rate on our manning documents, and it's going to take us a while to get to 100%. It's not something we can do next year or even the year after that. As we slowly gain and make progress, it's going to take a while. So that's kind of why it's a strategic priority. And the last one is pursue an active associate unit here at the MAINEiac Guard. With that is the potential to increase our PAA and our ability to do more. So we're airplane limited, we're sometimes people limited as well in the different shops throughout the wing. So looking at that active associate provides us an opportunity to bring more airframes in, more bodies in to get the mission done. And really to spread that MAINEiac tradition of excellence. You bring, say, 100 active duty folks in here for 3 years. When they leave, we will have left our mark on them. And so again, that's kind of spreading that tradition throughout the enterprise. And that's the top 3. And I'll tell you that that's based on a lot of work done by Colonel Netto, Decker, and Stroop in researching that with various people throughout the wing. So that's not Colonel Gillis's bright idea. It's not Colonel Brass's. It's a team here at the wing that came up with those.
That's cool. No, that's really cool. So for people to know, not just active serving members, but dependents too that listen to this platform, this podcast, to know that you guys are working collectively, and not only are you working collectively, but you're also sharing it with everybody else. Can I ask you a question about number 2?
Sure.
Priority? Okay. So with recruiting and retention, is there a and I'm sorry if there is, and just me being ignorant, but is there an avenue for for any airman, any MAINEiac to come forward with an idea that they may have about recruiting and retention? Like how would that go about?
So recruiting and retention, you've probably all heard Colonel Brassa at various stand-ups and things like that, and myself mention that we're all recruiters. Mm-hmm. And by that, we mean we have such a small recruiting force that unless we help them, they can't make that kind of progress. So in that vein where we're all recruiters, I would encourage anybody that thinks they have a good idea of how to get more people in, get more interest in the Maine Air Guard, to run that up their chain. Talk to their supervisor, talk to their group superintendent, talk to their commander. And we're all interested in hearing the ideas. Sometimes it takes time to execute those ideas. Colonel Brass and I have been working on a couple of initiatives, and it took us over a year to actually get those to come through, with some funding and some manpower. So things don't happen overnight all the time. Don't happen as fast as we'd like them to. But give us the ideas and let us try and work through them.
Oh, that's cool, because I feel like a lot of people probably do have those ideas, and we have, just the top of my head, like 2 or 3 former active duty Guard or Reserve recruiters from other branches that probably could bring a lot to the table. That's awesome. And the fact, that kind of goes hand in hand, and I'm sure it would come up at some point in this conversation with the innovation program, like being innovative. And, what was that, back, I think it happened before I came in 15 years ago, but there used to be a program, right, where if I had an idea how to save the Air Force money, I could bring it up to you, or it'd go up the chain, and then I would get a paycheck, right?
Right.
I don't think that's around anymore, right?
There are programs like that exist. They're few and far between now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a free T-shirt. Thank you. Thank you for your service. That's cool. That's awesome, sir. So you mentioned those are the top 3, and then other sub.
So from there, we look at, those are kind of the 10-year, where we're trying to get to in the next 10 years. Then we have some operational goals that are kind of the short-term stuff that set us up for success on those strategic priorities. So we have 4 of those that were identified. Number 1 is perform federal and state missions safely, effectively, and efficiently. So again, that's just being the best at what we do. And that helps people outside of the organization look at us and go, okay, they know what they're doing. Let's help them do more and do better. Develop airmen and innovate and embrace process improvement. So we look at that really as affecting that recruiting retention thing, right? If we're taking an active interest in our airmen and getting them more skill level training and other things like that, they're going to feel empowered and able to do more. Recruit, retain, and invest and manage for the future. So, again, that's an easy one. That's really towards that recruiting retention piece. And then cultivate leaders, foster healthy culture and climate. And again, that's making this place, the Maine Air Guard, a place where you want to work, where you want to bring people in, where you want to stay for a career. So that's kind of our operational goals. Those are things we're looking to really action in the next 1 to 3 years.
That's awesome. So I got to be honest with you, sir. When you had mentioned that you wanted to do this, all I heard was the term strategic plan. I'm thinking to myself, it could have been a whole plethora of things that you guys were going to talk about. This is really neat because I've been in a situation before in my previous career field where I felt disgruntled as an E5, where I'm not challenged enough. Like, I want to do this, and this, but I'm not being able to do this, and this. And it was almost like I talked about Chief Nadorowski in the last podcast, but that old term, shut up and color type of thing. And to be able to have support from leadership from you guys to be able to enable us to want to do more and to cultivate leadership, like you just said, that's a big, to become a better leader. So you're setting up the organization for success 10 years down the road. That's huge.
That's our goal.
That's cool. That's cool. You guys are sharing this. Has this ever happened before? Is this?
Wow. I think if you go back far enough, at some levels, yeah, sure. I've obviously, people know I've been in this organization for 33 years now, so my corporate memory goes way back. We've kind of ridden a sine wave here, where strategic planning becomes very important, and we do a lot with it, and then it kind of takes a back seat. And so we're trying to get back to the point where it is being emphasized, and we're actually trying to move the organization forward, really just to make sure it stays. We need to remain relevant and reliable and ready to survive as an organization. So the other thing I think we're seeing now with General Roy and General Michaud is an organizational alignment that is the strongest I've ever seen it. And what I mean by that is, General Roy just coming out of the wing command seat, understanding the issues facing the wing and what's going on. General Michaud just having been come out of group command in the maintenance group. They understand where the organization is and where it needs to go. And so not only at the wing level, but at the state level, we are really aligned very, very well. And we're all communicating on multiple channels nationally to move the organization forward. And that's just a huge benefit. Again, I talked about everybody in the wing rowing the same direction. Well, not only that, but we've got our GOs at the state level out nationally all rowing the same way too. And again, that's a lot of inertia move in the right direction to get us where we want to go.
And like we said before a few times, like that's showing the rest of the organization how much you guys value us, and that was, that's the thing, right? Is that like you guys always have, it's just a matter of having the resources and putting the ball in our court to be able to drive that train, so that's awesome. That's really big. I also didn't know either that the topic of the KC-46 was even a thing, for us. So that's new information,
So General Nahom just recently announced that the next 2 lots of KC-46s are going to come to the Guard. Now, folks, don't get excited about a KC-46 showing up tomorrow. What that really means, the next lots that haven't been spoken for, those are in 27, 28, so quite a ways down the road. But 24 KC-46s are going to be coming to the Guard, and they will replace KC-135s. So, again, we're trying to step up and let folks know nationally that we're interested. We want to be relevant for the future, and the KC-135 is an amazing machine, but it's not going to be flying, in another 30 years. And maybe there will be a few of them still flying, but they're going to take a lot of work to stay in the air. We want to be modern. We want to be relevant. We want to be part of the future fight, and that's the new airframe. So. And, if the 46 isn't in our future, like I said, there's only 2 more units, Guard units, that are likely to get them. We want to position ourselves for what's next. And whether that's a new airframe in a different mission set or what comes after KC-46 for the bridge tanker, we want folks to know that we're in for the future.
Well, and whether or not we get it, the 46 or a different airframe or whatever the case may be, it's going to tie hand in hand with that innovative proverbial basketball on your side of the court type of thing, where it's going to cause the rest of the whole Maine Air National Guard to adapt, which is a good thing. It's like people like change, even though they don't like change, and they like the challenges behind it and the training, and it's going to open up a lot of doors for a lot of people, which is exciting. It's like we said in the last podcast, it's a great time to be a MAINEiac type of thing. So that's pretty awesome.
It certainly is.
What's your take on the whole thing? It must be exciting for you to be a part of this and see.
It is. It's having 33 years here at the Maine Air Guard, there's a lot of tradition. There's the airframe that I've known my entire career, and pretty much my entire life has been the KC-135. Out here, I do remember my father flying F-101s and thinking those were really cool, but really the airframe I've seen the most out here is the 135. So it is a little different to say goodbye to that airplane. But realizing that although it's an awesome airframe, it's just going to get tougher and tougher to support. And that's what we've seen here most recently, is that parts issues and things like that, our maintainers are working really hard to keep these airframes flying. It's time for a new jet, and something that will take us well into the future. So we're looking forward to it, maybe with a little bit of sadness in our eyes when the 135s leave, but it'll be for the better, and it'll be moving the organization forward. So,
well, it's like General Roy likes to say, it's, when I think of him, it's like synonymous with like this quote, like being ready to fight tonight. So having an airframe that, that has been through how many wars? Three,
way too many.
Yeah. So like that. So I can't imagine if, God forbid something happens tomorrow or a year from now or 2 years from now, those resources that you talked about, it makes it harder and harder for our maintainers to keep the birds in the sky would be even more difficult. So that's, I guess, thinking about it that way makes a little more sense too. But, what would you mind if I ask a question?
Sure.
I didn't know how much time you had. What would you recommend for a young airman who would be listening to this or hearing it from their supervisors or their commanders that this is the strategic plan that we have moving forward?
I would say that this strategic plan, our strategic plan, is our future. And like I said, 33 years in, I don't have a whole lot longer future with this organization. Having said that, I will continue to be outside the gate after I retire, looking in, cheering the MAINEiacs on. But for that young airman, they've got a lot more years here in the organization. So taking an active interest in what we're doing and doing their part to get us to that end goal only benefits them and the organization. So, specifically speaking to those first-term airmen, be good at your job, be ready, and do the best you can. And if you're doing those things, that's the biggest thing that they can do to help us. Beyond that is, tell your friends. As Colonel Barrasso likes to say, if you like working here, wouldn't it be even better if you're here with your best friends? Get them involved, get them excited about the organization. We have a lot to offer. So, spreading that word and making us the strongest organization we can be is what's going to get us to that end goal.
And it's got to be exciting too, knowing that you guys are you in leadership are establishing these building blocks for those first-term airmen. That this is what they're going to remember, as I'm sure you remember what leadership was like when you first came in, as I do as well. Knowing what, for me it was like I didn't know who you guys were. Had no idea. I just knew that I saw the rank and you saluted, and if I saw your photo on the wall down in security, I offered a post briefing. But I never ever had interaction with any wing leadership or state leadership until I met Chief Peer on a Sunday when he gave me a box of donuts. And but establishing that for those first-term airmen, so it's going to be kind of cool for you guys to know that you are like solidifying that concrete memory for them. When 33 years from now, they're looking back and saying, this is what I've done in 33 years, and it could be potentially a daisy chain effect from what you guys put in place. That's pretty cool.
It is, and that looking back on my time as an instructor pilot, that is probably one of the greatest things that I've done here in the Main Air Guard is looking at the young co-pilot that I trained, who then becomes an aircraft commander, who then becomes an instructor pilot, and passes on that legacy of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So sitting in the command seat now, I kind of get to do that for the entire wing. And that's an honor. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a burden, but I hope that we're doing it right, and we can get to the point where the organization thrives in the future. So
that's cool.
I look at General Hessert was the wing commander. I think probably 2 years after I started out here. He's the wing commander that I really remember. Mm-hmm. And I can look around at buildings and ramps, spaces, and things like that that we can directly attribute to him. I don't think I'm going to be anywhere near that, but maybe 30 years down the road, somebody will say, "Hey, Colonel Gillis started that."
Right.
Man, that's a pretty cool legacy too.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. And you may not, Airman Snuffy, years from now may not sit back and say, Colonel Gillis put this ramp in place or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a tangible thing. It might be something that they sit back and say, Colonel Gillis enabled me and his team enabled me to shape the future, and to shape my future, to shape the future of the airman that's going to come after me. And that's got to be cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about, sir?
No. I think, again, what I wanted to do in this podcast is kind of introduce the Wing Strategic Plan, get that out in front of folks, talk a little bit about our priorities, objectives, and really just make folks understand that we have a vision for the future here at the Maine Air Guard. It's a bright future, and we just need help moving the entire wing that direction.
Roger that, sir. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks.
Sir, thank you. Thanks again to the Colonel for sharing that with us. There was a lot of good information. I recommend to all of you be sure to share this with your peers and battle buddies. Progression is impeded by the inability to innovate. I'm not sure if anyone's patented that quote yet, but if they haven't, they should. I'm Master Sergeant Andy Sinclair, and this has been episode 54 of the MAINEiac Radio Show. Remember what the Colonel said, we're all recruiters. Spread the good word. It's an exciting time to be a MAINEiac, that's for sure. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We'll see you next time.